Okay, it's being recorded. Okay, so first of all, welcome everyone. Of course, our condolences to the Epstein family. Thank you for joining. I see we have even Gary joining us from South Africa. I don't know what it is there, but thank you for joining us.
How's it, guys?
There you are.
And Ivan as well. Okay. We will begin with Ma'ariv, with your permission. And then afterwards, we'll say some words and we'll finish off with a Kaddish and a memorial service. So I will share with you the screen as I'm going through the Ma'ariv. With your permission, I'll mute everyone so we don't have any... Just 1 second. Okay, we'll begin with the Ma'ariv. Since we do not have an actual minyan, we will skip Baruch Hu for now, and we go straight into the blessings of the Shema. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר בדברו מעריב ערבים בחוכמה פותח שערים בתבונם שליטים מחריב לזמנים ומסדר את הכוכבים משמעותיהם ברקע כצאנו בור יומם בלילה כלאור מפני חושך וחושך מפני אור ומעביר יום מביא לילה מבדיל בין יום ובין לילה אדוני צבאות שמו אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני מעריב ערבים, אהבת עולם את ישראל, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים משפטים אותנו לימדת, על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו ובקומנו, נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך, מצוותיך לעולם ועד, כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגע יומם ולילה, ואהבתך לתעשים עולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך, בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשובך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, והיה אם שמעתי תשמעו מצותי אשר אנוכי מצוותיכם היום, לאהבה את אדוני אלוהיכם, ולעבדו בכל לבבכם ובכל נפשכם, נתתי את ארצכם ביתויר ומלקוש, ואספת דגניך ותירושך ויצריך, ונתתי עשב בשדיך לבנתך, ואכלת ושבעת ישמרו לכם פן יפתה לבבכם וסרתם. ועבדתם אלוהים אחרים ושחביתם להם. וחרה אף אדם לכם מצאת השמונים אותם באדמה ותיתם דיברתם לכם. שמתם את דברי אלה על לבבכם ונפשכם, קשרתם אותם לאות על ידכם היו תטפות בין עיניכם לימדתם אותם, את בניכם מדבר בם בשבתך בביתך ובתך בדרך ובשובך ובקומך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען ירבו ימיכם וימי בניכם על האדמה אשר נשבע אדוני לעבדיכם לתת להם כמי השמיים על הארץ, ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת עליהם ועשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לתורתם ונתנו על ציצית הכנף ותהילים תכלת והיה לכם לציצית וריתם אותו וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני ועשיתם אותם ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם אשר אתם זונים אחריהם למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים אלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת. ואמונה כל זאת לקיים עלינו כי הוא אדוני אלינו ואין זולתו, ואנחנו ישראל עמו עבדים ממלכים, הגואלים מקרב כל הריצים, והאלה נפטר למצרים ומשלם גבול, לכל ונפשנו ושנו של בחיים, ולא נתן למות רגלינו, עמדיכן, עמותי בנו ואנקננו, על כל שונאינו האלו, עשי לנו שים כמה בפרעה, ואותות מוותים עד בניך ומכה במתו כל בחורי מצרים, והוציא את עמו ישראל מתוכם לאכלו להמון בגלל הסוף, ויותיהם וצונאיהם בתמות טיביו, ובנה גברתו. וכובו לשמוע מלכותו ורצון קיבלו להם משה בני ישראל הכנו שירה, שמחה רבה ואמרו כולם, מי כמוך, באלים אדוני מי כמוך, נהדר בקודש נורא תהילות, עושה הפך מלכותך, ובניך בקע לפני משה, זה עניינו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר אדוני תיגע וגורם לחזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל, השכיבנו אבינו שלום עמיתנו מקיים וחיים שלום ופרנסנו זוגת שלומך, ותקננו בעצה טובה מפניך והושענו למען שמך והגן בעדנו, והסר מעלינו אויב דבר חרב רעה, ויגון מעשה לצדנו לפנינו ומאחרינו, צל כנפיך תסתירנו, כי אל שומרנו מצינו אתה כמלך חנון ורחום אתה שמוצתנו. פועלנו לחיים שלום מעתה ועד עולם, ברוך אתה אדוני שומר עמו ישראל לעד. ברוך אמנו ברוך המצוין שלנו ברוך אני מסלל סולת ודבר שם גדול עליהם ומלך הודות ולארץ אמן אמן. יחי ודון עליהם משמח אדוני מעשה וישמעון ורחמת אדם קדוש אדוני ברוך שם גדול. תהיל אדוני לעשכם לעבי על כולם יפלו פניהם ויאמרו אדוני הוא אלוהים, אדוני הוא אלוהים ואדוני מלך כל התמימים ואלוהים חדש במיוחד יחסן שלנו לך. שיהנו לקבצנו גוינות על שם קודשך לשבח ותהילתך, כי גויים אשר עשית עבור ישלחו לפניך, אדוני חבוד שמך גדול אתה נושא לפלאות אותנו לבדיך, ואנחנו עמך וצאן מרעיתך נוליך לעולם לדור ודור, ונספר תהילתך ברוך ה' ביום ברוך ה'. אדם משוך בנו ברוך ה' מקומנו, כידך נפשות החיים המתים, אשר ידו נפש כל חי ברוח ובשר איש, בידך הפקיד רוחי פדידתו אדוני לאמת, אלוהינו שבשמיים יחד שמך, לך תמיד ומלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ונשמח לבנו תגן נפשנו בשעתך באמת, במועד צל מלאך אלוהיך. מלך, אדוני מלך, אדוני ימלוך, עולם ועד כי המלכות שלך היא, ולא למעט ימלוך בכבוד, כן לנו מלך אלא אתה ברוך אתה אדוני, המלך בכבודו תמיד ימלוך עלינו ועד ועל כל מעשיו. Going straight into the silent עמידה. the conclusion of the Ma'ariv services, we'll recite Aleinu together. Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol, לתת גדולה ליצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם וגורלנו ככל המונם. אנחנו קוראים, משתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושבי קרוב בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו וגובה מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו בדעת היום בשבות האר נבבך, כי אדוני הוא אלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחתנו. דל כן קבלך אדוני אלוהינו לראות מהרה ותזך להביא גילוי לארץ, עלים כרגע לתון לתקנון ובחוש ידי, כל בני בשר יקרא בשמך לך כל שרת זכיר ידעו ובחוש דבל, נתחלתי יכרע כל ברך תשבע כל לשון לפניך אדוני אלוהינו לפני פלו, ולכבוד שמך יקריתנו ויקבלו כולם תורתך ותמלוך עליהם מהרה ועמדים מחוץ שלך היא, ולעול מעט תמלוך בכבוד תורתך אדוני ימלוך עולם העד, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. So we are not completely over yet. After we'll share some words and do we'll hear from some people. We'll recite a mission in the end so that the mourners could say a Kaddish de Rabbanan. At this point, I'd like just to say a few words. I watched the recording of the previous services that were done in South Africa, and what I gathered, the picture that I gathered, was that your father, may he rest in peace, Avraham ben Chaim, was a special neshama who brought a lot of good, positive light to the world. And from what I understand, he did not have the easiest life. He went through a lot of hardships through life and was able to push through with positivity, which is something that is amazing. He passed away on the week of Parashat Mas'eh. We read last week, Matot and Mas'eh, but Mas'eh means the journeys. And the parasha begins with the 42 journeys that the Jews had to go through in the desert until they reached the land of Israel. So they say in connection to this, a story of a very rich man who was also wise and learned. And this wealthy man knew only one person who was wiser than he was. A childhood friend who was as poor as he was wise. He was very wise, so he was also very poor. And the wise and poor friend would not agree under any circumstances to take handouts from anyone. He tried many different odd jobs, some lowly, others even worse. He wandered from town to town, living hand to mouth. But at no point, though, did he manage to use his incredible wisdom that he had to earn money. Even King Solomon says, the wisdom of the poor man is despised. Not always the wisest of men are also wealthy. Sometimes people have bad luck. One day, the rich man, his friend, from his childhood friend, decided that this had to stop. He can't see his friend living like this from hand to mouth, living in such poverty. So he decided he'll do everything he could to take care of the needs and benefits of his friend, and also gain from his great wisdom and his friendship. But he knew that this his poor friend would not agree to live with him, no matter how much he tried to persuade him. The poor friend would not agree to live with him, and the rich man feared that his friend would never approach him. So the rich man concocted a complicated plan. He sent his emissaries to every town that this poor friend reached, and he found a way to make him continue wandering from town to town until he exhausted all the towns that he could work in. In one place, they planted mosquito nets. in his house. And the other one, they pressured the mayor of the town to banish him. In the other town, they sent him a tempting job offer from an adjacent town. So he rushed over to that town. In this way, the emissaries succeeded in forcing this poor man to go from place to place until the last place he could go to was back to his childhood town where this wealthy man lived. And it was only when the poor man reached the town of his birth, exhausted, depressed, feeling depleted, that his wealthy friend managed to have a heart-to-heart talk with him, persuading him finally that, our fates are now again intertwined, and that he should agree, the poor friend should agree that his rich friend should take care of him and take him in, and thus he would also gain from his wisdom and advice. What's the message of this story? So as I mentioned before, our Parsha concludes the story of our journey through the desert and the way to the promised land. And the way it summarizes it, it says, Ve'ele motzaehem lemasehem. Moses recorded the starting points of their journeys according to the word of God. And these were their journeys with their starting points. Why is the Torah repeating these two things? It recorded the starting points for their journeys, and these are their journeys with their starting points. It's superfluous. It's repetitive. The Torah is never repetitive for no reason. So the emphasis is trying to show that there were two perspectives. One of the people, the Israelites, the people traveling through the desert, and their perspective on their journeys through the desert were different than Moses' perspective and God's perspective. The purpose of the people of Am Yisrael, the Israelites' journey through the desert, was to escape and go as farther away a distance from Egypt, from their bondage, from their suffering. So we're continuing, we're leaving Egypt, we're going from town to town, from place to place, but just trying to get away from all those things that bothered us. But from the perspective of Moses, and based on God's perspective, as it says in the Pasuk, these were their journeys with their starting points, meaning the journey was well planned. There was a purpose for the journey. Throughout the 40 years of them wandering through the desert, there was a defined goal. The points along the way, those 42 stations along the way, they themselves, each one was significant. There is a reason why they had to go through each one of those stops. Each one brought with it another lesson. And turning a nation of slaves into a people of God, people who could be in charge of their own destiny, people who will shape world history forever, there was a need for them to have each one of those stops to teach them something, for them to be strong with their faith in the Holy Land and to shape history forever. And our sages tell us that everyone in life goes through 42 stages, maybe not exactly 42, but goes through similar stages in life. As life becomes a chaos around us, we strive to go forward from one point to the next, from one job to the next, from one identity. You're a child, then you're a youth, then you're a father, then you're a grandfather, and we study and we invest in our families, from sickness to health, from sorrows to joy, and from one challenge to another. And as we strive to get to the next stage of our lives, facing the challenges and hope that it brings, we could suffice and look back while attempting to escape away from the problems. We could look at it from the perspective of, the reason why I took this new job, or the reason why I'm moving past this is just to get away from what was bothering me in the past. Or we could look at it in a way that each one of those stations, each one of those things that happened to me in my life, each stage is actually bringing me closer to my journey in this world and what I'm supposed to accomplish in this world, coming closer to God, being a better person. So this is the way we should look at life. And I think from all the stories that I've gathered, we'll hear some more words about the beautiful soul that was Avraham ben Chaim, is the fact that he had a lot of hardships in life, and yet he was always able to look forward, to understand that there's a purpose in all of this, and to continue having hope, looking past, not just running away from the problems and from the sufferings, but actually learning from it, gaining from it, and looking at the positive aspects and what he could take out of those different stages in life. So that was a lesson for me. It should be a lesson for all of us. Sure, we all know this, but it should become something that we should strengthen ourselves in seeing everything that happens in our life as something that is preordained and something that is orchestrated by God and bringing us closer to our mission in life. So these words should be for the ascendance of the soul of Abraham ben Chaim. And I would like to ask right now from the family, maybe we could begin with Martin. Maybe you want to honor one of your brothers. If you know how to unmute yourself, if that works. If not, I'll unmute you. Let's see.
There we go.
Okay, perfect.
I just want to thank everyone for making the time and the effort and being so supportive during hard times. My family here in San Diego, I recognize as my family, and they've been amazing. The amount of support I've had from the community has just been unimaginable. And I just want to thank everyone for their kind support and offer of help. It's really, really, truly appreciated. So thank you very much. Much appreciated. I want to just also say that my father will really be missed. It was, as you know, and some people know, I was supposed to be down there in the beginning of March to see my dad, and unfortunately COVID hit, and so may it be, and I was not able to get there. And I want to just thank my brothers, as I did previously. They've done an amazing job, amazing looking after my dad while I've been overseas, living in San Diego, and during these hard times in the last week and the last few weeks. Just thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. They've been really unbelievable to our father, and just thank you very much. So I'll maybe let my brothers say a few words, and then we can turn it over to the community and people that are on Zoom. Gary?
Yeah, thanks, Martin. Thanks, Rabbi.
Gary's my oldest brother, then it's Ivan, and it's me who's the youngest. This for people who don't know.
Rabbi, thank you. I see a lot of familiar faces. I see a lot of unfamiliar faces. We had our Zoom prayers quite a while ago in South Africa. I'll repeat a few words that I said earlier on. Yeah, Albert was always smiling. He was loved by all his family, all his friends. Whatever he took on, he tried to do as best as he can. He had a short, say, I think it was about 22 or 23 years of marriage to his first wife, our mom. That was late Sarah. She died at an early age of 45. A couple of years after that, he met his wife, Lee Sussman, which is Ethel, as I called her, Epstein, and she was pretty supportive right until the end. And a lot of people that I see on this Zoom knew Albert, knew what he was like, and understood that, as you said, Rabbi, his purpose in life. He had his ups, he had his downs, but at the end of the day, he always spearheaded into the future. He was pretty ill. His quality of life wasn't great for the last couple of years. His new family, when I say his new family, his stepchildren, Garth and Donna in South Africa, were also pretty supportive with their mother, Lee, or Ethel, as some of us called her. They supported him right up until his last day. I also mentioned the war zone in South Africa, within the hospitals with the COVID, and the support we got from, we can call him from our side, a distant family member, which was Dr. David Jankalo, who I extensively mentioned the support he gave us in South Africa, trying to see that Albert survived through terrible ordeal that he started going through. So from me, it's a thanks to Dr. David Jangalo, to my family here in South Africa, Martin and family in San Diego for all the support they gave us. And may his memories be remembered, if that's the word, and taken forward with us into the future. And just thanks to everybody for all the support that they gave us right until the end. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for all being here this evening. Rabbi, thanks for conducting the prayers. It was very nice. Gary said most of what needs to be said, other than obviously I knew my dad for 59 years. So we knew him a lot longer than we knew our late mom. And yeah, he was a great guy, my dad, fun guy, interesting. We'll never forget him because I got my older brother Gary to remind me what he's like every day. Who's a clone of my father. But Martin, they say, takes after him a little bit. I'm not so sure. And then there's the Raisin Boys there in California also remind me a bit of my dad. And they spoke so well last night. And then I see my friend Steve Crost on the line from Australia, who will be able to recount some interesting stories about my father. Stephen's been part of our family since we were little kids. Yeah, he was an interesting guy. I mean, never really a guy who got cross, never in a bad mood, happy-go-lucky, did what suited him, you know, and a very salesy kind of guy. So he could talk anybody into anything and anybody out of anything as well. So he was an interesting guy. His first cousin Stan Schmitz, there on the line from San Diego, will also be able to tell you about him, who knew him well. Actually, Stan also looks a bit like my father in some way. And he was a great guy who lived, I think, a tough life towards the end, you know, getting old and having illnesses, and it's not easy. And part of, unfortunately, that's what happens to many of our parents and the elderly. But overall, great memories of him. And I suppose I learned a lot and inherited a lot from him and some of my traits, I guess. But it's always hard to say goodbye to a parent, no matter what age. For those of you that have lost parents, you know, if they're in their late 80s or even early 90s, it's that final goodbye. I think that's tough. But, you know, you just remember the great times you had and the wonderful memories. So thank you, guys. And I'll probably recognize most of you online. Good to see you all again. Thanks.
Stan, you want to say a few words?
I think he's on mute, Martin.
You're on mute, Stan.
So let me try to unmute him.
Okay, is that got it? Yeah, I was probably of the first cousins of the male. I was the youngest. So your dad was, of course, older than me, and there were the three. I don't know what you call them, but they were Cecil Raisin, and I see their sons on the call as well as Selwyn Simon and Albert were friends. They were pretty close as cousins. And they were the boys. Albert is of our family. There were 14 first cousins. And Albert was the last surviving male of our family. He was the oldest surviving male of our family. At this stage, it's my two sisters and myself of the Smith family. Now, Albert's mother was a Smith, as well as Mark's father, Cecil. His grandmother was also, Mark and Anthony, his grandmother was also a Smith. And my as I say, my two sisters and myself, my dad was the youngest of the family, and we are the only surviving members of the Smith family, of our close family. Albert, as I think Ivan said, or I don't know, it was Ivan or Gary said that he could sell you anything. He was that type of guy. And I have fond memories of him. Once again, I was way too young at that stage to be part of their group. But I still had my trips back to South Africa. I used to meet him for breakfast or for lunch, and we would have good chats. And he will be missed. He'll be missed by all our family. And of course, I wish Martin and Ivan and Gary the long life and everything of the best.
Amen.
Thank you. Thanks, Dan.
Somebody else want to speak?
Anyone want to say anything?
You said somebody was here from Australia who might be able to share. I forgot his name.
Maybe you just want to share some of your experience with my dad, because you knew him very well. If you unmute, Steve, you need to unmute and across the iPad.
Let me try to do that. Okay. I asked to unmute.
Okay, you unmuted, Stephen.
Just to say I'm going to miss him. I'm too emotional to talk. Yeah. I'll pass. Sorry, guys. Wishing you and Joe long life.
The Raisins said the Raisins had some funny anecdotes last night. They spoke. Raise, I mean, I don't know if any of you want to add anything else, because you guys knew Albert so well.
If I'm allowed to say what I said on the other Zoom, I'll say it.
You can say it, Raise.
Uncle Albert was really the coolest uncle. He never got cross with us. When we used to cause cuck, we would drink, we would smoke. He would let us do it. He would actually encourage it, funnily enough. And my father was very against it. So we spent a lot of time in Albert's house. And even when we had blue movies, Albert would be the one who gave us the projector to watch them. So he really was the coolest uncle we had, and we're going to miss him a lot. We saw him in South Africa about a year ago, and at least we were able to spend a little bit of quality time with him. Wish him a long life, and wish all you a long life.
Long life, guys. Long life.
Richard, David, do you want to say anything?
We unmute him. Richard, you have to unmute yourself. I'm requested to unmute you.
Yeah, I was relaying to Martin the other day. Albert had a number plate on one of his cars, and I remember it said Groot. And for all the guys from South Africa will remember that. Albert had a Groot personality, and he was a Groot guy, and had some great experiences with him. Miss him a lot, and I wish all of you guys long life.
Thank you.
Very dear friend of mine. I've known since the beginning of school, since grade 1. We've been really good friends.
Good to see you, Richard.
Long life, guys.
I just want to chirp in here. I'm not going to repeat what I said earlier this morning, but just feel the urge to share for those of you that didn't know Albert as well as the rest of us. The Epsteins lived one street away from us growing up in our teenage years. And as Mark alluded to, Albert was always up for a prank, always up for doing something a little bit out of the ordinary. And Albert never met a block of cheese that got away from him without being eaten all the way down to the rind. There were times where we were convinced that Albert would actually eat the red wax off the cheese. And if Sarah wasn't screaming at Gary to stop eating, or one of those things, Albert was quick to sneak it. Albert's claim to fame was he didn't like wearing clothes for dinner. And it always amused us as youngsters growing up. Albert would come out of the hallway wearing his starched white underwear, and it was always the same story. Excuse the appearance, chaps, but a guy's got to be comfortable. So that was Albert. He didn't have to put on airs or graces. He was as genuine as they could come. You could take him for anything that he said. And I think he's the last of a generation of good people who gave everything from the heart. He would give you the shoes off his feet and the shirt off his back, and then convince you to sell it back to him for less than you'd bought it from him. So that was Albert, the consummate salesman, always having fun. And Epps, like I said this morning on the other prayers, I hope you, the old boy and Selwyn, are out there causing cuck somewhere and pulling pranks on each other. Love to the family, long life to everybody, and take care.
Thank you. Anyone else? David?
Uncle David.
Okay, let me unmute you 1 second.
Dave Shepherd wants it. Where's Dave? I see
Yes.
Dave.
Okay, I've requested.
Dave's on mute.
Okay, I'm going to say something. And Gary, I just want to wish you guys a long life. And I think, Mike, of just listening to your story right now, I think Albert's memory lives very, very much alive with Martin right now, because I'm sure Neil and Gavin Miller are testament to the fact that the prankster continues in Martin. He is always a prankster, and he will always give everyone the shirt off his back. So I think, I never knew Albert, but from whatever I've heard being said today, I certainly believe that and I've known Ivan for over 30 years, and I really think that a lot of the characteristics that you guys have mentioned is definitely being carried forward by two wonderful sons in Ivan and Martin. We all love Martin, who lives here in San Diego. He's like our brother, and he's definitely the prankster amongst all of us. So I'm sure that Albert's smiling down that he's passed the tradition on, and again, just wish you all a long life. And we always here for you guys.
Thank you.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted eventually.
Sorry.
Gary, Ivan, Martin, wish you all a long life. And I think, Brett, you stole my line there, but it's okay. I remember going back, Martin, when you first had your Alfa Romeo, and he still likes fast cars, by the way, and he's now driving one at the moment. But he wrapped it around a pole, and his dad said, I'll give you one more chance. Do not be such a Zulik. Otherwise, I'm going to get you a car with a little engine. And it wasn't much longer than Martin wrote the second Alfa off. And true to his word, Albert got him a little 1300 Cadet so that he could not drive crazily fast. And that still did not stop Martin. And just to show you that Albert only wanted to give, never had a bad word ever to say about anybody. And all three of you brothers are exactly the same way. You're all menschers. I've been with Martin now over 30 years and in business for nearly 30 years. And he is the best salesman I know. Mart, without you, we wouldn't have our business, because you would sell and resell things. And just want to say, I love you. I've never had a brother, so you are my brother. And I consider you that, and always will. And we're going to miss your dad. And I'm just sad that you couldn't be with your brothers and to say your final goodbyes. But from us, from Lisa, John T. Rio, we just wish you a long life, and we'll always be here for you. Thanks.
Thanks very much. Thanks.
Thanks, Dave.
Michael.
Okay, is anyone else?
Michael, unmuted? We can't hear you.
Michael. Let me find Michael.
Michael's iPad.
Am I unmuted?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi guys, it's Michael and Elise Raisin from Scottsdale, Arizona. also have very, very fond memories of Uncle Albert. The best one, I think, and I'll just repeat it now for everybody that wasn't on this morning's Zoom, or I guess it's 5 o'clock in South Africa, and our last night's Zoom was, Albert, he promised me that when I get married, he was coming to my wedding. And 25 years and a week ago, I get a call, and the call goes, Raise. I said, how's it, Uncle Al? What's going on? He says, I'm at LAX. You need to come pick me up. I'm like, you where? He said, I'm at Los Angeles International Airport. I'm here for your wedding tomorrow. You coming to pick me up? I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And Albert was a prankster. For all I know, he could have been at Jan Smuts in those days. And lo and behold, I went to the airport, and there Albert was. And we got to the hotel, and he said to me, Raise, did you book me a room? I said, Ed, how could I book your room? I didn't even think you would actually come. He said, you idiot, I told you I was coming and I'd be here. So I spent my last night of bachelorhood in a room with Albert. It wasn't what I asked for, but it was a blessing in disguise, because it was a very interesting evening. I don't think either of us slept, just telling stories, memories. Fortunately, the next night I didn't get to sleep with him. I got to sleep with my wife, which was also a blessing. But Albert was a good guy. He was a prankster. He loved, besides his boys, he loved all, like we call him Uncle Albert. He wasn't truly an uncle, but he was like us to us. And all of Martin, Ivan, and Gary's friends. He was just a good oak. So rest in peace, and we'll see you one day soon.
Thanks, Mark.
What about Claudia and Shanna saying a couple of words?
I'll go. Like I said earlier this morning, I last saw my grandpa 3 years ago. My cousin's wedding in South Africa. So I don't have too many memories with him, but when I do go back to South Africa and I see my family in South Africa, I absolutely treasure all the memories I have with my grandpa. And he does remind me a lot of my dad. His personality, as Brett and David said, he even pranks me. And that's definitely see how my grandpa is. And I will always forever remember him, and he'll always be with us forever. And I really care.
Hi everyone. So I'm just really happy that my grandpa Albert got to meet Yoni at my cousin Sage's wedding in South Africa, and we got to spend time with him down in Cape Town, which was really special. And then I got to see him 2 years ago, actually, when I flew out for my cousin Cherie's wedding, which was really special. Although he never met Jaden, I did give him a great grandchild, which is really, really special. And my cousin Seiji, who has one on the way, technically had a second grandchild, which is really amazing. But I'll just cherish all the early moments I had with him. And he really does shine through in all the brothers. And even Yoni knows he's seen my dad downstairs late at night doing work in his white t-shirt, underwear and socks. Underwear and socks. And we all laugh because it's just like our grandpa Albert. So he's definitely living on. So thanks, everyone.
Anyone else? Oh, good.
Okay. So at this point, let's continue. We will say a few Mishnayot. Mishnah is the same acronyms of the word Neshama, soul. So we'll read a few Mishnayot for the soul of Abraham and Chaim. You have to remember that we're doing this Shiva not just for those who are living, but primarily for the deceased, because at this transition period, it's a time of uncertainty or unfamiliar. The soul's unfamiliar with its new role of being in the world of the souls, and therefore we send our comforts and our prayers, and of course the soul is still connected to us over here, to our family. Whatever we say over here is for sure words of comfort, and the fact that we remember the soul, and we're giving it our blessings and as much spiritual guidance as we can. So I will recite a Mishnah, and if you would like afterwards, the mourners will say a Kaddish de Rabbanan. Let me just share with you the screen that I will be using. Okay. Before we do this, let me just recite a few Mishnayot. התביל בו את המיטה, פשבי של הקדש הולכות בתיתה ואת תאורה בני שמיים מקדמים, מקווה שממה מרודדים, כובש אפילו חבילי עצים, אפילו חבילי קנים, ושיטפחו המים, וירד בטובל מחט שיתנו על מעלת, המערה ימוליך ומביא במים, כיוון שעבר על גל טהורה. ויהי חנניה כשאומר רצה הקדוש ברוך לזכות את ישראל, לפיכך הרבה להם תורה מצוות, שנאמר אדוני חפץ למען צדקו, יגדיל תורה ויאדיר. Do you need me to put the Kaddish prayer over here, or you have it? Okay. Let me unmute you, Martin. Okay, you're muted. Kaddish. Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbah Mevarach La'olam Olmei Amaya.
יתברך וישתבח ויתברך ונשא ונדע ותראה ושמי קדושה בריחו ותראה תשבחתה ונכתה דרמה ברימה בין על ישור ועל רבנן ועל תלמידיון ועל כל תלמידי תלמידיון ועל כל מן תייצגי באתר ואתר הדרנה ועל כל אתר ואתר ולן ולכון שמי רבה וחינה וחצדה ורחמים וחיים ועריכין וזמני ורכי ובקרנה מן קודם אבוהון די תשמיה ואמרו אמן.
אמן.
יש מרבה מן שמיה ואחים טובים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן.
אמן.
עושה שלום ומה עושה שלום ומה ברך ויעשה שלום ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן.
Amen. Recite the Hashkava, the prayer after the study of Mishnayot. Anna Adonai Malei Rachamim Yishabedcha Nefesh Kol Chai Beruach Kol Basar Ish. Na'ana Ratzon Lifanecha Torotenu Tfilatenu Ba'avur Nishmat Avraham Ben Chaim Ugmol Na'ima B'chasdecha Gadol Liftoach La Sharei Rachamim V'chesed Sharei Gan Eden Utkaber Ota Ba'ava U'chiba U'shlach LaMalachei HaKadoshim HaTorim Lo Nidcha U'leshiva Tachat Etz HaChaim V'zeh Nishmat HaTzadikim V'Tzkadiyot חסידים וחסידות לענות מזה בשכנתך להשביע מטובך הצפון לצדיקים והגוף ינוח בקבר במנוחה נכונה בחדווה ושמחה ושלום כי דכתיב יבוא שלום ינוח על משכבותם הולך נכוחו וכתיב יעזו חסדים בכבוד ירננו על משכבותיו וכתיב אם תשכב לא תפחד ושכבת וערבך שנתך שלא תוליך בתקר ומלאים אבותולי אב תסתר בכל יום כשעה וכדם אל צדיק בעל שיעשה טוב ולא חטא וזכור לו זכיותיו וצדקותיו ושעשיו תשביע לו משבתו לדלשן עצמותיו בקבר מרוב טוב הצפון לצדיקים דכתיב מרב טובך שתמד לירך וכתיב שומר כל עצמותיו אחר מהן לא נשברה וישכון בטח בדד ושן מפחד האב ירא פני גיהינום נשמתו תהיה צרורה בצרור החיים לחייתו בתחילת המתים עם כל מתי עמך ברחמים Amen. The translation, please Hashem, full of mercy, for in your hand is the soul of all the living and the spirit of every human being. May you find favor in our Torah study and prayer for the soul of Avraham ben Chaim, and do it with it according to your great kindness to open for it the gates of mercy and kindness and the gates of the Garden of Eden. Accept it with love and affection and send it your holy and pure angels to lead it and to settle it under the tree of life, near the souls of the righteous and devout men and women, to enjoy the radiance of your presence, to satiate it from your proper contentment, pleasure, gladness, and peace. As it written, let him enter in peace, let him rest on their beds, everyone who had lived in his proper way. It is written, let the devout exalt in glory, let them sing joyously upon their beds. As it is written, if you lay down, you will not fear. When you lay down, your sleep will be sweet. And protect him protect him from the tribulations of the grave and from worms and maggots. Forgive him and pardon him for all his sins. For there is no man so wholly righteous on earth that he does good and never sins. Remember for him the merits and righteous deeds that he performed and cause a spiritual flow from his soul to keep his bones fresh in the grave from the abundant good that is concealed for the righteous. As is written, how abundant is your goodness that you have concealed for your reverent ones. As it written, he guards all his bones, even one of them was not broken. May it rest secure, alone and serene from fear of evil, and may not see the threshold of Gehinnom. May his soul be bound in the bond of life, may be brought back to life with the resurrection of the dead, with all the dead of your people Israel, with mercy. Amen. And to conclude, we will all say, if you all like to all unmute yourself, we will all say together the words of consolation. Hamakom. May the omnipresent comfort you among the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. We wish you a long life. We're here with you, sending love, thoughts, and prayers, and we're here for you now and forever, and wish you a long life, all of you and your whole family.
Thanks, Rabbi. I appreciate it.
Wish you a long life.
Long life, guys.
Wish you guys long life.
Wish you long life, Marcus.
Long life, Marty.
Mark, wish you long life. Gary, Ivan.
Long life, Marty.
Wishing you a long life.
Thank you very much.
Long life, Marty.
Wish you a long life.
Ivan, Gary, wish you guys long life.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wish you a long life.
Thank you.
Wish you guys all a long life.
Thank you.
We wish you all a long
Wish
life.
you long life, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wishing the whole family a long life. All the best, guys.
Thank you.
Wishing you all long life. Thinking of you.
You.
Wishing you a long life and stay well, guys.
Thanks, Dan. Great speaking with you and Mel the other day.
Stay safe and well, everybody.
Thank you. Same
Thanks.
here.
Gary, David, saying good night, long life to both of you, and hopefully we'll chat sooner than later. It's always too long and always these terrible times that we need to communicate more frequently. We miss you all, and just be well from the shepherds here in San Diego.
Thanks, Dave. Had a great chat with your mom the other night. It was really great speaking with him.
Yeah, no, I miss them terribly, and it's just so sad we just can't all be together.
Good. She's looked well. She's sounding very good. She had a great conversation with me.
Thanks. I really appreciate it. I miss them. And you look after yourself. Nice to see your face.
Nice, you too, guys. Thanks a lot, eh?
Take care.
Take care, bro.
Bye-bye.
Mm-hmm.